And
now we got a video product to show for our efforts.
Wow.
So, anyway, we're talking about my love of good wood.
Yes.
And why I care about skateboard decks and how that led me to have a very, very, yeah, it's passionate. And by passionate, I literally mean the word passion, which means suffering.
Yes.
Like putting blood in the sand to push the idea that a skateboard made by a maker
right.
is better than a skateboard that is made in a factory.
Sure.
At least the possibility of that.
Right.
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 I've been in contact with makers who were antisocial and not good people.
Right.
That sucks.
Well, how do you reconcile the fact that you appreciate and are passionate, and you mean that the way it means, and good skateboard wood, good product for skaters, and the fact that we spend so much time talking about how unimportant skateboarding is?
Oh, that's easy. Like, do you want to ski on crappy skis or on good skis?
Yeah, sure.
So within the bracket
Yeah.
of something that's not terribly important,
Yeah.
but takes equipment.
Sure.
All right, so it's
Yeah.
within a bracket.
Right.
Yeah, so it's bracketed.
Right.
But the thing is, when a guy crosses that threshold and says, well, I want to provide an alternative, and
Yeah.
I want to promote an alternative.
Sure.
Well, now you've gone outside of just playing with the useless wooden toy
Right.
to being part of what they call industry
Right.
and market.
Sure.
And now there are very important things involved. Now there's something important, because whether your family gets any income
Sure.
is on the line. There were
Right.
plenty of people who were willing to use slander, defamation, and even outright threats to make sure that my family didn't get an income.
Sure.
You know,
Right.
That was expected. I know how skateboarding worked.
Right.
Reed did not work.
Right.
Didn't work for the people who were depending on the industry to provide them things.
Right.
I understood the toxic, ridiculous gaslighting salesmanship that was the mainstream of skateboarding industry. I mean,
Sure.
that came later, though.
Right.
You know, it was 2005 was when that journey kicked off. And
Sure.
I realized, oh, there's a problem here, and I might be able to offer an alternative
Sure.
and a solution to this problem.
Right.
But, you know, as with any solution, you run into problems along the way. And one of the problems I see, you know, as I founded the Makers Movement
Right.
with Eric Sanders,
Right.
who is a heart of love and fidelity to the fun.
Yes. Dude,
What's that?
if you measured these would be like perfectly. Lew just punched holes in a punch card by eye, and they're like probably like
They're
half an inch apart.
within a tenth of an
within
inch.
a tenth of an inch.
They're within a tenth of an inch of each
By
other.
just like dink,
They're
dink, dink, dink.
almost perfectly aligned.
Dude, I'm gonna drop some toothpicks. You tell me how many are on the ground.
3?
Yeah, 3.
No, there's 4.
Yeah, you idiot.
How many now? I'm the worst kind of autistic. I can't even count.
That question that I just asked is actually a really interesting
Ask
one
it
to me.
again.
I asked, how do we reconcile the fact that you are passionate, you've proven that you're passionate about good skateboarding wood, with the fact that we spend so much time on this podcast talking about how skateboarding is so unimportant, you know?
So the thing is, it's unimportant, but it was still a $4 billion industry
Sure.
in 2007.
Yeah.
You
Because
know.
it is important to people.
Well, no, yeah, because it is way
Right.
more important than it should be
Sure.
to a lot of people. But even for the people to whom it is not overly important,
Sure.
it still is a market
Yeah.
of, you know, it's still a market.
Right.
I think the skateboarding industry is smaller now. I don't think it's still at $4 billion, but it is in the billions. It's
Sure.
somewhere between $2 and $3 billion as an industry,
Right.
which is actually, those counts are very hard to get.
Yes. I
You
would assume
can
so.
punch through the paywall and join Trans World Business, or at least you used to be able to.
Okay.
All those stats used to be out in the open until about 2007 or 8.
Okay.
I know there was a financial downturn of some serious consequence in 08,
Indeed.
but I think it was before that. Johnny Manak, thank
Hey,
you.
buds.
Good to have you with us. But I think that they got paywalled independent of that downturn.
Yeah.
But my passion for good skateboard wood existed, and the way I served that passion, the suffering that I endured for that value set, was that I paid money. There was one month that I dropped like $740 at a skate shop that opened.
Okay.
Just because they were friendly in an ocean of skate shops that were too cool for you.
Right.
And the owner of that skate shop credited to me and another customer the survival of that skate shop. And it wasn't just the 1 month. I was like a $200 to $400 customer there. I don't know how we did that financially, and I don't know how I'm still married.
Yeah, dude.
My wife never once questioned that.
Yeah.
She is so ride or die.
From conversations I've had with her, I think she's more down with like your lifestyle than you are down with your lifestyle, which is hilarious.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall, because I'm auto-shamed of myself.
Yes.
Because I find my lifestyle to be, it's ridiculous. I value hard work with good pay. My personal aspirations are things like roofing and
I'm still
fixing motorcycles.
I'm still intrigued. I think this question is important because, so you're saying the reason that you wanted to start making maker-made skateboards is because obviously you wanted to provide quality to the skateboarding community, and that was something that you're passionate about inside of the rubric of the statement, skateboarding is largely unimportant. And it sounds like you were driven by the need to feed your family. Like, was money a part of it?
So there's like dividing walls.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so within those walls is the silliness of skateboarding.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But what happened is I was always a skateboarder who valued being able to get home on my skateboard.
Yeah.
I had very little patience or respect for the brands of skateboards that came out.
Right.
You know, I settled in on riding the Santa Cruz I bought. That really kicked it off was obviously a prototype that made it to our skate shop outside of normal means. I don't know if it came off the van at a demo, or I don't know how that one got there, but that Santa Cruz board was very similar to, I think it was the same possibly batch, now that I know how things are made. I think I was skating a board that was very similar to Eric Dressen's board in Speed Freaks. The one that got hit by the car.
Yeah, and it was fine.
And it was fine because that
cool
thing
moment.
was an absolute tank. And I kick flipped it, and I was ollie melon grabs, like really, really. And I used that board, the density of the maple in that board.
Right.
And the glue bonds in that board were just sturdy.
Right.
And I had no problem getting height.
Yeah.
I learned and decided it was true in myself that it doesn't matter how heavy my board is. I can rip on a big heavy board. And after that I bought naked boards because they were the same type of laminate. Those plies were dense and strong and good. And then I also got a Shut. And Shut was pressed by Chapman in Maine at the time. And they were also using full thickness 1/16 ply. That's another thing, is those extra plies, those couple of plies, not extras, but those couple plies in there that are 1/20. Well, we've got makers that are happy to have lots of 1/20 in their boards. Also, we've got varieties of birch and other types of tree that are making it into skateboard production unbeknownst to the brands. The brands are able to have a clear conscience as long as they don't actually supervise the manufacturing. That's enabled by the manufacturing being done in far-flung places. And you know, but as a young as a young person, I had a core respect for durability, deep concave, good tail kick.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Come on.
These were things I really, really appreciated. My other friends were busy dressing themselves in Vision streetwear. And I didn't dress well until my friends introduced me to stealing clothes. when I was young, for
like
a certain
14.
Yep, about 15 years old.
Sure.
My friends introduced me to how easy it was to steal clothes.
Right, and it is still.
And
pretty
there was a
easy,
brand of pants called Skids.
Yes.
They were basically pajama pants.
Yes.
And I used to wear, and I think they came back.
Okay.
I think that Skids are back, but they were like garish plaid.
Yes.
And so, yeah. The other thing I really appreciated were shoes that lasted, because I had gone through $15 Chuck Taylors.
Yeah.
Like in a week.
Sure.
Forever.
Right.
I did the duct tape that got on your grip tape. I did the shoe goo repairs every night, shoe gooing.
Right.
And I was used a beat up pair of Airwalk prototypes.
Okay.
They were the gray with red top trims.
Skids were the other.
Those are Limpies. I never bought Limpies because I hated their advertisements. Advertising works.
Yeah, come on.
Know?
Yeah.
But look, I got on my bike in the wind today, and I have wind head.
Wind
I'll
head.
take it. On this side, I don't have it as much. It's fine.
I wonder why.
Everything's fine.
It's fine.
I'm
still interested, because it seems like the amount of pain and suffering that you went through to create this product for other people.
Well, that wasn't skateboarding.
To you, okay, yeah.
That was
talk to me more about that.
That was me moving into another thing I like, which is business and advertising.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed the business of skateboarding. I loved going into shops. I loved, because I worked for brands that were mass produced, and I loved talking to a shop and leaving a box of boards with them, and then having those boards sell and bringing them back. And I loved watching a business grow.
Right.
And the brand I worked for had opted for American-made wood made by Jim Gray at ABC, when ABC, before it was bought by Dorfman.
Okay.
And ABC made dense, good skateboards.
Yep.
So I really enjoyed working for that brand. Although, funny thing happened.
Go ahead.
I asked that brand, hey, can you make some big wide boards?
Yeah. What year was this?
It was 2007.
Show the unbeliever.
And I actually bought like 3 decks from an operation that claimed to press their own boards.
Okay.
And they were dense, and they were thick, and they were really good.
Yeah.
But when I finally started my own company, the guy who pressed the boards for my company let me know that he was actually pressing for those guys the whole time. Which is a common... People will pretend that they make their boards, and they're actually getting them pressed by someone else.
Yes, they'll say maker made or whatever.
It's a side note, but that's one reason why I always left rough edges on my work.
Right.
And made it evident that this came from a workshop, not from a factory. I didn't want those candy finishes and things like that. Yeah. Because it's too easy to tell people things that aren't true. And the other thing I did was I publicized pictures of my operation, process shots, and like that.
Yeah.
Now, you're asking me to describe to you how the ridiculousness and the unimportantness of skateboarding, how does that gel and coincide with the seriousness of actually offering a new company that does it in a way that has more authenticity value, and more inspirational value, and higher quality laminate. That third one, whether a maker can exceed the standard of the industry in terms of quality, well, the bar is nice and low. It really is.
Right.
It's, I mean,
so funny.
We've talked about how like 1-hour presses come out at or above industry standard laminate. But 4-hour pressings with 4-day cures, I mean, you're just making tanks.
Yes.
And And they're not, they're, everyone with how heavy they are, I don't think that you guys who talk about boards as if you know something about them actually weigh anything. I don't think you measure things. I don't think you weigh things.
Right.
You use terms like pop. This
Don't,
has more
dude.
pop. Are you
Yes.
telling me that the board is less stiff, more stiff?
Right.
Are you talking about the balance of stiffness and flexibility that one might call
Right.
Resilience? Are you
Right.
talking about degrees of torsion?
Or angle between
Okay,
flat
so
bottom
now
and belly and tail.
So now are you describing the leverages,
Yes.
the multiple vectors of leverage that are
Right.
created by
Right.
concave,
Right.
by tail pocket,
Yes.
by tail height,
Yeah.
by
Right.
what are you talking about?
Oh, it's just pop, dude.
And like
Yeah.
soggy and pop and all these terms. I called a glue manufacturer who I loved,
Yes.
and they put their glue mixing specialist on the phone with me.
Okay.
And he was a gem. I
That's awesome.
loved him.
That's awesome.
He was a gem. I had a good relationship with that company, and they're not in business anymore because China.
Yeah.
We are such idiots in this country. We are so short-sighted
I know.
and so stupid and so unwilling to suffer in order to create. We will not choose less in order to ensure sustainability.
Yeah.
And I just think so little of our culture in these days. But in regard to this, you can see that's not skateboarding. That's not riding skateboards.
Yeah, that's more
That's
than that.
business, and that's production.
Right.
It's all kinds of problems in how you make a product,
Sure.
and then how you market the product, and then how you fulfill
Right.
any, the disaster of success.
Right.
The Rockwell scale of ductility has just come up.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think that the Rockwell scale is actually ductility. I think it's a scale of hardness.
What does something mean to be ductile?
Ductile means it has to do with properties of flexibility.
Okay,
and
I see.
limitation of
I see.
flexibility.
Okay.
Now I'm talking like a math guy, and
Is
I'm
that
not.
similar to durometer? It seems like the
Yes.
suffixes or the
You know what?
prefixes are similar.
Yes.
Okay. I don't believe you.
No, you asked a great question. Is it similar to it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, everything is technically similar.
Everything
if you
is
pull out
similar.
far enough.
Yeah,
Right.
it is.
Yeah.
The one is expressed in words.
Yes.
The other also words.
Yeah.
Therefore, yes,
Yeah,
they're
dude,
similar.
you got it, buddy.
But I was surprised
Mm-hmm.
in 2005. What was I? 32, 33.
A mere lad.
I was a mere lad to find myself an invited participant in skateboard industry stuff. And when I got into that, just selling a brand to skate shops and managing
Right.
the sales of a brand, not
Yeah.
managing the brand. The
Right.
brand was completely outside my control. But
Right.
managing the sales of that brand and attending events and doing stuff with them, I was surprised at how well suited I was to all this. I love
Right.
people.
Yeah.
And I love good skateboards. And this brand happened to have good skateboard decks.
Right.
And it put me among people. So
Yeah.
this was a fit.
Yeah.
When quality issues and issues around loving people became a problem,
Right.
I exited that brand,
Sure.
having already been fired by them once.
Yes. Right.
For reasons that they know.
Right.
Oh no, it depends on what day it is that ends with Y, whatever they'll tell you.
Yeah. It's fine. It's fine.
But that brand doesn't exist anymore anyway.
Yeah.
But
It would be an effort to figure it out, I think.
so I began as my buddy and I, a young friend, not really a skater. He was like, I want to start a skateboard brand. He was skating every day with me, and he was really going to be a ripper.
Sure.
And he loved it, so he's like, I think I'll start a skateboard brand. I said, all right, well, let's do it. We'll have fun with it. I was just going to do it as a plaything on the side.
Right.
And sort of took off because we got to do something I wanted to do, which was we wanted to source it not only domestically, but we wanted to source the wood regionally.
Right.
And I wanted deep concaves. I wanted larger dimensions.
Yep.
Having been assured and warned by the the wood factory that nobody was going to buy a board with a 15-inch wheelbase. I persisted and had him make me boards with 15-inch wheelbases that were all over 8 inches wide, which at the time was just massive.
Right, astronomical.
And we had boards at 825. We had 825, 85, and 875, I believe. Yeah. And because 9 was unheard of at the time.
It was too much. It was a bridge too far.
All of our boards weigh less than a duck.
Technically, if you use ducks as a metric, they're very light.
We've got some comments. Dear listeners, we've got some comments that are scaling up. Looks like we've actually got a popular podcast going on today because folks are chiming in on the
We have 7 viewers right now. We're taking over the industry. We had 10 in the beginning. Wow. I even saw some...
He'll drive them off soon.
Yeah, I saw some angry faces pop up on the screen. I was wondering if we had our first heckler on here. I was going to take a minute and celebrate.
Well, I would actually welcome a heckler.
Yeah. Somebody to speak their mind, finally.
Well, so your question is good because...
Yeah, go ahead.
Because being in the skateboard industry is not the same thing as going skateboarding.
Right.
Right. The problem is that in the industry, the market concerns are addressed by going skateboarding on this product,
which is a nice added bonus.
If it's a Venn diagram, there's overlap between the two circles.
Sure.
The problem is that Sam Cook just said, "I ate shipping, bro." Sam's commenting here because he's had an interesting customer experience. What we ride for life skateboards.
We do.
We ride for life skateboards, and over at Life Skateboards we have an interesting kind of experience going on because we'll have Sam on. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about it. People are critters. That's
nobody's breathing. Nobody's bleeding out of their eyes.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
This question.
Yeah, well, I'm interested because if you just look at the facts, you spent 12 years?
Mm-hmm.
12 years running a skateboard brand at a detriment to yourself, at least for the last 6. I mean, you were under duress.
The last 6 years, I had, in the last 6 years, I was blowing up in 12 and 13.
Yep.
13 and 14 was when some really heavy stuff happened and was done.
Yeah.
15 was when the restraining order was in place. That was
necessary
and useless.
Yeah, it turns out.
They're never going to adjudicate on a restraining order
language.
They just won't.
Yeah.
So 2012, 13, and 14, and 15 showed me that nobody in the skateboarding industry had the ethical wherewithal to interact in any way that was going to lead to a better market and anything better.
Sure.
And that was everything I was working for.
Right.
They weren't going to do it. Oh, they're so nice, the nice ones.
Of course.
What good is nice in a bar fight?
Yeah.
So
I know.
So the ethical standards in skateboarding were confirmed to be completely antisocial while I was in that period. So from 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19, those 4 years saw 2 things happen.
Yeah.
They saw my ability to focus on my work was diminished by the constant concern. I couldn't advertise without wondering if this was going to cause a mob incident. So the second thing about it was that there was pressure on me from nice people to stop saying that my work was good,
right.
that made boards are better than factory boards. I had people in private coming to me and saying, look, man, we just don't want you to get killed, so stop basically advertising your product.
Right.
And it's a very compelling argument.
Is it though?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Because when someone says something like that to you, you think, well, is that a ridiculous thing to say? And the fact was, no, it's not really actually that ridiculous.
Right.
You know, you're ticking off people whose advertisements are breaking a kid's board and throwing it in the river, who are well known as brawlers, who are well known as drunkards, and, you know, miscreants and deviants of several types.
Yeah.
You know, and you're not dealing in a local and regional market. You got the all caps guy up in Indianapolis, dude, just chugging away all caps, like just promising that you know, you got all this going on, and nobody's gonna be like, no, dude, you're the kook.
Yeah,
you know, it's oh, they'll come to me privately, or they'll maybe you know, like say something, you know, here or there, but the people who had the power to make a change were skate shop owners who would say, threatening the life of a business, you know, a business community member, your boards are going in the back room until this hatchet is buried. You know, and I maintained a very conciliatory disposition, reducing a restraining order from 5 years to 1 year. You know, at every step of the way, I was conciliatory, even though I remained incisive in my marketing.
Yes.
And I also was putting effort into trying to build out the makers movement, so that we could just get the tech out there.
Yeah.
That goal was finished, and I felt like that's the goal there, is to get people able to make a press, make a mold, and make boards, and give 1,000 people a chance to be part of serving good wood to people. And accomplishing all this was really quite hard while I was, you know, actually, and so I was dealing with those things, and the other thing that was going on was I was starting to make good money.
Okay.
I was starting to make good money. I was getting sales in Ireland, England, Australia. Shoot, I sent a board to Scotland.
Dang.
I had people riding my board. I had a board that was being ridden in Vietnam.
Dude, that's sick.
I didn't ship it there.
That's sick.
I had boards being ridden in, there were a whole bunch of countries. Yeah. And also I was getting sales across the country. Yeah. And that success, and largely due to I took on a business partner, a good friend of mine who did the SEO and the work on our media. I would produce media and I would sell boards. I would go on a trip and I would sell boards. Yeah. But it was gonna swallow me. Yeah. Because I didn't have a community here. Yeah. That would even ever really, I mean, oh my gosh, I had so many interactions that were so demonstrative of the fact that there was never going to be the ability to wake up in the morning, go to work, and know that anyone had your back in any way. And it seemed entirely likely that the door to my shop could get walked in and there could be 3 guys there who were going to beat you with a pipe and then say that you attacked them. And everyone always went with whatever they said, and it was a very tough season in my life. And the whole time working through, because I am a struggling Christian, you know, I'm a man who wants to be someone who loves and honors the commands of Jesus in my life. And he commands that I forgive and that I do good to those who do evil to me. So I continued to send customers to the shop that fomented so much of this over to the boys the whole way through until December of 2018. At which point they treated a customer I had sent there so badly that I withdrew all that, and I told people to go to Zoomies. You know, and but that was because my love for my customers surpassed my desire to send them over there, you know. But I was like trying to be faithful to forgiveness and mercy and maintain a conciliatory disposition in business. And it just looked like the only way to go was to, you know, advertise what I was doing.
Right.
But for that, I had no assurances that I wouldn't be beat to a pulp.
Right.
Quite the opposite. I was assured that I would be beat to a pulp. And so it was a really strange thing. So business and riding the things are not the same thing.
Yeah, no, 100%.
When you enter the industry community, you enter a community that is full of swill and sharks and all sorts of trouble. Now, like, take another industry.
Sure.
Surveying or roofing or framing houses or you know, something like that. And these things, you get it in like real estate in New York.
Right.
You get it where the mafia will lean on you, kickbacks are required, this sort of thing.
No, it's the
but
same.
it's similar.
It's very similar.
It's more organized.
Yes.
With skateboarding, they're not just out for money.
Sure.
The interests that opposed my work and my person were concerned primarily with their legacies.
Yeah.
They were concerned with their legacies.
Right.
Because if the truth of what actually happened was ever published, like we have a city magazine here called City Beat in Cincinnati, and they did multiple articles about this crew that ran the town, and all their articles were framed like these guys were Mother Teresa for the kids, you know.
Right.
And being around kids is the last thing I think these guys should be.
Sure.
You know, really, really just awful legacy of corrupting young people.
Yeah.
But that's not what I got in touch with the the article writer got in touch with me, the journalist.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you know, and I called him out. I said, you know, hey, do you ever like look at the other side? Because you've done multiple articles about these guys, like they're just awesome.
Right.
Like, and I brought up like 3 major things. And I was like, why don't you write about these things?
Right.
You know, or why don't you at least explore it with them and bring some sense of accountability? Because journalistic ethics.
Yeah.
So journalism exists to bring accountability to mankind.
Right.
It's why the First Amendment is the First Amendment. It's why it's the first one there. Because if we don't get accountability served to us by our brothers and sisters down here, we're going to face God with full accountability with no practice. And it's actually really important. It teaches people to repent.
Right.
It teaches people to take stock. That's why we punish crime.
Right.
It's why we put people in jail.
Right.
Is so that they have a chance to do moral inventory and consider the FA and the FO of the whole thing.
Right.
So you've got this dynamic and all this going on. But to boil it down, Luke, serving the community of skateboarders who are largely involved in an ephemeral, hedonistic practice, with something that is of high value and like that is not really going to get off the ground really fast. But it kind of did.
No, yeah, for sure.
It did kind of get off the ground because Life Skateboards and a bunch of Johnny Manak. Manak skateboards and Life skateboards, and Frankie Purcell used to make some killer decks. You got now Chris Gobert has been chugging away over in Arizona. Doesn't look like he needs a thing from nobody. He is just killing it.
Good for him, man.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
awesome.
really grateful for his work.
Right.
Being a great example. Some of the longtime board makers go back to an era where sketchy ethic and bad business practice were part and parcel with the thing. So I don't think the older board makers are necessarily great examples of what a future looks like.
Sure.
I have one in mind in particular who, Ben Butler at Woodshop. He's a good one.
Yes.
Yeah, Ben Butler at Woodshop. Life Skateboards comments that Woodshop is a great board maker. Now, there you have it. Among the makers, you've got a cross contamination.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Right. Yeah.
Cross pollination.
Yeah. Cross pollination.
And that's really fun.
Yeah.
And I was hoping that would happen. And my hiatus in 2019, mid-year, happened during a really good season of profitable work.
Right.
And I backed it off in, I think it was March. I think in April 2019, I took my trip to Tampa.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I took my trip to Tampa. I had a great time with Tommy Story, but in my heart, I could tell that it was largely over.
Yeah.
That I would have to take up this battle in a different way.
Sure.
And that's why we are broadcasting thoughts.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
And words.
Well, I think that's helpful. I was talking to somebody who listens to the podcast, and they brought up that interesting question, and I thought it was a good question to ask, because the two are different. Skateboarding and working inside of the skateboard industry are different, and you can see how that passion for good wood is like directly correlated to taking care of people and trying to provide, all the skaters with something that is actually meaningful. It was a kind of from a business standpoint, I think somebody could have looked at you and be like, dude, you're being an idiot. These people are the worst. Like, don't. My
son, who is an absolute wunderkind in business,
right?
He told me, I think it was about 2018. He's like, Dad, you're wasting your time and talents on these people.
Sure, right.
He's like, and I actually went to counseling.
Yeah.
And my counselor, after he pulled in all my history, he's like, I don't agree with his. Oh, Hondo Hank made some nice boards. He did. Voluptuous, out of Austin, Texas.
Yes.
This counselor said to me,
yeah.
He phrased it like this. He's like, you're a high value person. You bring value into the things you do with people, but people don't reciprocate reward for that value.
Right.
They are happy to frustrate the value you're bringing to them.
Right.
Without, almost cutting their nose off to spite their face.
Right.
That's kind of the way he put it.
Sure.
I felt it was a little too Patrick Bet-David for me.
I don't know what that means.
Oh, he's a podcaster. He's a business guy, and his podcast is called Valuetainment.
Valuetainment.
And he's one of the high motivation business guys.
Okay, yeah, like a Gary V type deal.
Yeah, like Gary V, right?
Right.
And I like these guys. I like Patrick Bet-David, and I like Gary V. I'm a different soul.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be useful to those kind of agendas, because I value the soul level of things, and I approached my work in skateboarding that way. And it did yield an interesting thing. I really loved my customers. I think with pain on two customers, one who I still am connected with and able to bring value to that person when I fire up my presses again.
Yeah.
I could just comp it out of life skateboards for him, but he said that he's willing to wait until I'm pressing again.
That's very sweet.
And he is such a sweet guy.
Yeah, we should definitely.
He is.
We should square that circle.
I tear up when I think of so many of my customers.
Yeah. Because
I only had to sell. 100 boards a month.
Right.
Was a good amount of business for me solo.
Yeah.
Once I brought in my business partner to pump up the SEO and stuff, that sort of was a tough one, because the model had us going up to $250 a month, which I could have swung.
Yeah.
But I needed my business partner to be printing the shirts, making the hats,
right,
and handling the web. And he only handled the web.
Right.
He had kind of a change midstream.
Yeah.
And he did not do something wrong to me.
No.
He did not.
Yeah.
It was entirely consensual.
Yeah.
But that, going in, and I was not afraid. I was angry.
Yeah.
I was angry that violence was a daily consideration. I was angry that, disappointed that I couldn't go 4 blocks down from my house to the local watering hole and enjoy a cold snack.
Yeah.
Without wondering whether 3 of the shop-sponsored boys were going to do their thing. And they did it to a former pro rollerblader guy, beat him right up in that bar.
Wow.
I think they did it twice. I mean, they really, and they didn't get arrested. They didn't get, there was no, like, hey, you can't be beating people up at bars and still be on the team. Instead, it was like, that's what skateboarding's about.
That's what they get,
And it's just, you can't understand it from hearing it.
Yeah.
When you really get into it and you start to experience things like that. I've had a lot of people who I've talked to about this, and after a certain amount of time, I think it's that with you.
Yeah.
They go, wait, what?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You know, what?
You really have to click into it. You have to click into it. I think a lot of things are like that. Anything that's nuanced, and though this situation isn't necessarily nuanced, I think it's just a situation that is so insane. The narrative, like your brain just does not want to think that that's actually what happened, you know? And then when you finally click over, you're like, holy shit, it's like waking up from the Matrix. It's like,
one of the things I hoped 2 things. That what I noticed about the makers, most of the makers, there are some exceptions to this. It appears that Johnny Manak is doing a good side business, but makers who want to be a full-time business are going to have to advertise the superiority of their product.
Right.
In terms of the honesty and customer service, the authenticity of the process, and the value of the product.
Yeah.
You're going to have to argue superiority to the way it's been being done. And they're going to have to say some things and communicate some things that are incisive, that are going to cut into your mainstream skateboarding. You're going to be saying things like, what are you talking about? Workshop made boards are totally better.
Yeah.
Well, they're better experience buying them.
Right.
Better experience, better experience using them, and a better experience knowing that these are made by people who ride the ridiculous toy and care about how my riding is going. I can call them. I'm talking to the people that made them. The value of that. My boards were $14 more expensive.
It's a bridge too far.
And they lasted so long.
Yeah.
And I was beginning to get that through.
Yeah.
$14 more expensive. Cheaper than the Andy Anderson, Plexo Glide, fancy fabric.
Right.
And who doesn't want a 4-ply skateboard?
Yeah.
It's fine. It's good, But the thing is that one of the big Ohio skate shops was carrying Andy Anderson's board for $92. They wouldn't sell mine for $70, even though they watched tons of my boards move, drop shipped.
Yeah, drop shipped,
to their shop for pickup from local customers.
My gosh.
Because I wanted the customers to be able to shop at that place, buy some shoes, give them the grip tapes, give them the, I've been a good guy in terms of business and a certain generous attitude.
Sure.
But, one time the owner of that skate shop, was quite famous skate shop, was on a live with me on Facebook, and he was saying, like, Fickle boards, man, they're awesome. And I'm like, yeah, well, then how come you haven't stocked them?
Yeah.
Right on the feed.
Yeah, it's
and he didn't like that.
I'm sure he didn't.
He just friendlied up and he paved over it. And I thought, okay, well, I can't, because he said he was going to stock up.
Right.
A year before.
Right.
So I can't trust him to keep his word, and I can't trust him to be smart.
Right.
Then the new owner of that place came, and he's like, I'm just not going to stock your boards. They're hard to sell. And he's the one who watched 22, 26 of my boards run right through his shop at an event.
Yeah.
And his wife turned to him and said, why aren't we stocking those boards? And I don't know what his hem and haw was. I mean, maybe it's
so
me.
Strange.
Yeah. But I mean, it's like you don't like if it's me, can I just really quick, because you've got pros up on the wall there, who've done bad things.
Yeah.
And you just keep it. Like if you sold a Corey Duffel board, What am I known for?
Yeah,
That I called out. Right? They called me a Bible salesman. That I called out a corrupt and gross industry for ripping you off.
Right.
Yeah, that doesn't actually play well for the retailers because they're cogs in that machine.
Sure.
Their job is to steer you to whatever they used to sell and keep what used to sell selling, not give you something better, not give you things that are more valuable.
Right.
And
I'm sitting here thinking about what would have to happen to actually, like to have the model that you're talking about be really successful. And I'm like, if you had 3 dudes who really believed in it, you know what I mean? If you had 3 guys who really, really believed in it and were willing to put some heart and soul, some real effort into it for 5 years, I bet you would crush.
We've done the numbers multiple times, Luke and I.
Yes.
We asked the question, we're like, all right. So what does a maker make on, like call it $100 sale?
Yeah.
Shipped.
Right.
Right? So you take $100, right? Here's your makers.
We'll do some math here.
$100.
Yeah.
Shipped. So you're going to take out, we'll just call it 30 for shipping.
Okay. You're at 70.
Okay. You got, call it 30 for materials now.
Okay. That's 40.
That's wood and glue. That's poly spray.
Yep.
And that's ink.
Yes.
Per board.
Yeah.
You probably have another $5 on volume over a year.
Right.
In screen printing supplies or what other supplies, art, paying artists and things like that.
Yeah.
All right, so take another 5 off.
35.
Call that art.
Yeah.
Okay. So with a rudimentary setup that's capable of making, I've got 2 presses in the basement right now.
Yeah.
That's 6 boards. That's 3 a pop.
Yeah.
Per pressing round. Say I made 6 boards a day.
Yes.
All right. I only have to wait the first 4 days until I've got boards that are crisp and ready to be cut.
Right.
So 6 boards a day. Call it 20 work days a month.
Okay. That's 120.
That's popping them out, putting them in.
Yeah.
Shaping, bringing batches through.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, popping them out again.
Right.
But if you, so how many is that a month?
It's 120 a month.
120 a month.
Yeah.
And that's all able to pace into the work day.
Right.
You're on a 6-hour day.
Yeah.
So what if I popped them out, the overnights,
Yes.
put them in the drying room,
Yeah.
popped in the morning batch.
Yes.
All right. Now
Yes.
watch what happens.
Yes.
And I work on finishing orders until lunch.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you say lunchtime?
Yeah.
Well, that's a 4-hour pressing.
Right.
So I pop them out again.
Yeah.
And I put them in again. I do that all in under an hour.
Yep.
Now I work for another 4 hours.
Yep.
I could even do it a third time, but let's just do 2 a day.
Yeah,
Let's just do 2.
Yeah.
All right. So now we've got 240 per month. If they're sold,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have to do the road work and the advertisement, if
Yes.
they're sold already,
Yeah.
right? What's your margin on a board?
35.
$35 a board.
Multiplied by 240.
By call it 120 for now.
Okay. 35 multiplied by 120.
Sure, if you're just doing 120 boards a month, that's very easily. That's $4,200. A single person, a dignified income,
Yeah.
living in Ohio.
Yeah.
That's plenty. That's plenty. And that's a 6-hour workday.
Yeah.
No. I can't stand when someone calls me
We gotta
from
put you on-
the country of Peru.
Yeah, I'm so confused right now.
I've got now that kills the podcast, so it has to process and save everything. So we're just with
Facebook.
Facebook and GoobTube right now.
Yes.
So
Yeah, that's that. If you multiply that by 12, you're at about 50 grand a year.
it's about 50 grand a year,
Yeah.
and that's a job in skate. Now you don't have benefits, you know.
Right.
You if you cut off a finger or if you blow a line or something like that in your
Right.
shop,
Right.
it's not for the faint of heart,
Right.
and it's also rigorous work.
Yeah.
It's physical, But the way I ran my shop, I made sure that
This is a Peruvian skate
it's
shop's
great.
trying to re-up.
The comments are on
Oh my
fire.
gosh.
I love you, Tommy Story. That's if you've got 120 sold. And that's what I was doing at the end when I started shutting it down. 2018, I was starting to get to, I had 150, 120. My lowest month was 50.
Okay.
You know, I did a really strong, I don't have, I guess I could go get the accounting records and track it, but I don't want to.
It's fine.
So that business is gone anyway.
Yeah.
But that's one guy.
If you did 3 people.
Well, if you had 2 guys, okay.
Yes, and 4 presses.
Well, I mean, here's what you get is if you had another person, always with something. You know what I mean? Always with something with this technology.
The technology.
We're still locked out. We're still locked out of our podcast right now.
Gosh.
Honestly, some of this stuff is super annoying.
It is.
Okay. All right, what we had there was a technology pause on the audio. We're back on audio.
Dude, you should put it on Do Not Disturb. Is it going to help?
I'm not going to do anything.
That's fine.
This was working fine. So where we are is it's at 120 boards a month.
Mm-hmm.
That's 20 working days a month. By the way, how many?
The crap?
That's.
Bro, I'm blinking over here.
No.
Are you blinking?
I am too. Let's see what happens. There it is.
Oh my gosh.
I just pushed. Now we blew out of the podcast again. Unbelievable, this process.
Insert angry pin clicks.
100% we'd like to take this opportunity to ask our listeners and our viewers to please send money.
Yes.
The annoyances of low tech have displaced the pride that we would feel at being so authentically under-equipped.
That's fine.
Is it? You know what that is?
It's not fine.
We're gaslighting ourselves, man.
I know, but it feels comfortable in here. Don't turn on the lights.
I know. I know. I don't even know. It's going to go through that entire process. So let's power through on the goop, too.
Yes, it's fine.
So 2 guys working.
Yes.
Okay. 3 guys is your third guy would have to be a marketing guy.
That's what I'm saying. Like
the marketing guy, which is what I was planning was to apprentice someone.
Yes.
I had 4 people that I worked with the hopes of them becoming a board maker. All right, here we go. All right, so
and we're back.
Yeah, so everything tells me that
back.
we're actually back on the audio.
Yes.
Classic. Please,
Classic
Dad,
blunder.
send money. So we've worked out that if you had 2 guys working, you'd have to buy doubles of some of the tools.
Yeah.
You would have to buy a second balloon sander. You'd have to make workstations.
Yes.
And that's not that expensive.
You'd also have to produce enough volume of board sales.
No, the thing is, if the boards are sold.
Yes, that's the thing.
If people are buying the boards.
Right.
But it was one thing for me to increase my business with advertising, saying they're calling you kooks for riding boards, but this is what the boards are like. This, and this are better.
Right.
So come kook with us. Death threat. Right. Surrounded at the spot.
Right.
Backed by all the skate shops, backed by the industry to their own hurt. They could have been getting margins on resale, but instead they forced me to go direct to customer, which all of them also now have done. And on and on. There's none of that.
Right.
You know, and then, of course, in my personal life, I call out bullies. Yeah. And in my branding work, I had no problem opposing sexual harassment and things like that, because that's what a good brand ought to be about.
Right.
Time to time, it's time to take some time.
It's time to take some time.
So we're looking at the board maker thing, and this is for people with the problem with the board making is over the counter at that skate shop, they want Mexican and Chinese wood to sell.
Yeah.
They want the Thrasher mainstream to remain the only stream.
Right.
You know, the ability to market on social media made me all alone.
Yeah.
I did have my SEO going.
Yeah.
My guy worked on the search engine optimization.
Sure.
I'm not sure how much that played in because I go on a trip, I got lots of orders.
Right.
I do a Facebook Live, I get orders.
Right.
I don't know how much of that reach was maximized through the web, but I had a greasy smooth website.
Yeah.
That my partner made.
Yeah.
Very good website, very good setup.
Yeah.
And you know, if two guys got involved, what I would see is like, Luke, if you and I got involved, I would get you up to snuff, making boards, and I would just do a ton of media, and it was the problem is that you and I are the,
I know,
you know, we're the,
I know,
and
well, we could do this too. That's what we had a conversation the other night about this, and we were like, okay, well, if we had a workshop and you could do 6-hour days, and then you could podcast, you know, 3 times a week or 4 times a week, you know, and you could begin to amass to yourself a media empire. Then you have multiple streams of income coming in from different vectors, you know, like that would make sense. But you would have to work really, really, really hard on it, you know. It's not as if
we can do hard things.
No, it's true.
You can do hard things.
It's
now,
true.
like Life Skateboards. Life Skateboards has the 2 guys working, and they have the ability to put out over 200 decks a month.
Yeah.
They have a good enough website.
Yeah.
I rate Life Skateboards like a B+.
Really? I thought their website was like excellent.
That's a high grade from me.
Okay.
It is. I do. I think their website is like a B+. That's really high from me. I'm a hater.
He's an absolute hater, folks.
But I see the big problem for Life Skateboards is that there's not, and the whole time there are people sniping at faults.
Yeah.
Faults that are not there.
Yeah.
Faults that are there.
Sure.
You know, like, and it's a bit like crabs in a bucket.
Yeah.
And I am, you know, like Life Skateboards endured a strong controversial attack recently.
Sure.
Last summer, was it? End of summer? I don't know. I thought it was.
Hold on, not this summer, the one before it.
Last.
Yeah, last.
This summer hasn't happened yet. We're in the spring.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, last summer.
You're good, bro.
Yeah, I'm like,
You're
okay.
good.
Processing.
Neither of us can verify what summer.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
And that was where Life Skateboards had pissed off another small board company owner.
I thought we were talking about a different situation.
No, I'm talking about where Life Skateboards pissed someone off, and there was a whole bunch of, it went straight to internet drama, and I watched 2 of my very favorite entities in skateboarding have a minute of strangling at each other.
Oh yeah.
And I thought, yeah, okay, that's human. You know, that's fine.
We are, right.
And then I just watched I watched TCS, Toxic Customer Syndrome, just took a bite out of Life Skateboards Day.
Yeah.
Today somebody got a board, and they were pissed off last week. They got a board and they complained that the concave was way too deep.
Okay. Yes.
That how does anyone ride these fucking things? You know, they were
you could just give it away, bro. I don't know.
They were so like hard and like that.
Right.
And Life Skateboards does not have a PR department.
Yeah.
Sam Cook is a masterful board maker.
Yeah.
He is not a masterful communicator, which, by the way, that's also another part of the previous controversy.
Yeah.
And there will be more controversies around Life Skateboards because everyone isn't every single thing.
Yeah.
And when I was running Midwest Blue Collar Fickle Skateboards, I was 3 or 4 things effectively.
Right.
And that's rare. That's really rare.
Right.
What I wasn't was a web guy.
Sure.
And my guy who came in was a web guy.
Yeah.
And I got to have him because the first $4,000 of profit every month were his. I got what came after that.
Sure.
So I was not paid.
Yeah.
you know, he wasn't getting the full 4,000.
Sure.
And I was working for free for year 10, 11, and 12.
Right.
Half of 10, all of 11, all of 12, while under duress.
Right.
And I realized that, like, okay, this is not going to work.
Sure.
It's funny because that the kind of attacks that come against board makers, you know, the thing I loved about it was anytime anyone didn't like what they got, I always just refunded, replaced.
Yeah.
If they could show me pictures of something that went wrong with a board or that wasn't right, I would ship them out a replacement priority.
Yeah.
Sometimes I would prioritize the replacement later if it, you know, I had this ability, you know, I had this ability to work with my customers for their satisfaction, and I hit a relatively high bar.
Yeah.
I had a guy complain to me about his board. He was local, and you could tell it was a clout complaint. He was just complaining for clout. I got a board from you, and it was awful. I hated it.
Right.
Your stuff's garbage.
Yeah.
And I reached out to him, and I said, hey, you know, I really want you to have the opportunity to get something for free from me.
Yeah.
I'd love to make you a new board. Nothing. You know, you can tell when a complaint is not made in good faith.
Right.
We had one guy who made a complaint that was not in good faith, and so I gave him another board.
Yeah.
And then he made another complaint. I gave him another board.
Yes.
And he wound up going through like so many boards. It turns out that he was actually
he reselling them?
Sponsoring
Oh my gosh.
a rider for himself.
Yeah.
He was pretending to be an agent of Fickle Skateboards.
Seriously?
Sponsoring
oh
a
my
rider.
Gosh,
and he
dude.
was doing doing warranty fraud to get the boards to give to the. That's fine.
Yeah. Well,
you know,
you don't have that. Right.
And then he wound up launching a giant campaign that Fickle Boards is terrible.
Right.
And my business, that helped a lot.
Yes.
So,
yes. Yes.
So I, you know, this type of thing, if somebody isn't advertising for board makers, then they're going to have to work really, really hard, because it's not like Jenkem magazine is going to pick them up and make a story about them until maybe they will.
Until they do.
Because I just watched Braille do a full video with Johnny Manak.
Yeah.
Although it didn't sound like Johnny pulled that off really well, because he didn't like advertise his work. I don't know how that blend works for Johnny.
Okay.
But one of my observations was, well, this did not look like. I think he did properly blurb it to order a board at manakskates.com. I do.
Oh,
I think he did.
Yeah, sure.
I think he did do that. And I think, you know, but it didn't feel, I just was hopeful that it would increase his sales.
Yes. I mean, so many people watch Braille. I mean, you have to, your sale margin, even if it went up by 0.5% of the number of people who watch Braille, is going to be a huge percent growth, you know?
Yeah.
Dude, I just looked up Manak, and Manak Skateboards was like the first thing that came up.
How'd you spell it?
M-A-N-A-K.
Yep. So he has the SEO, and he's a great web guy too, as far as I understand. He works in IT or web. And they put him in the comments. I'm so happy about that.
Yeah.
So maybe makers are going to have a breakthrough.
Right.
That would be a lovely, lovely thing.
Yes.
It sounds great to me. I don't know. I'm not feeling too buoyant.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you and I start making boards.
Yes.
One of the problems with making boards is that you got to buy about $3,000 worth of wood.
Yeah.
To get your per deck cost manageable.
Yeah.
And you got to have a certain amount of equipment. I think 2 presses is sufficient. And I have the rest of a bunch of the equipment, but I'd have to put probably $500 into, or maybe $2,000 into the initial soft goods.
Yeah.
You know,
right. Yep.
And things like that.
Right.
Because outsourcing your soft good business is a real mess. You're going to make pennies.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Yeah, like drop shipping hats and stuff. Yeah, and they're way more better when you make them yourself. And
I just
get to
agree.
them, you know.
I
Absolutely.
agree.
Even I'm looking at one right now, one of the 5 panels with a what do you call it on it?
Yeah, I remember we did these
patch.
We did these 5-panel hats with a patch. Dusty.
Yes, it's fine.
We did these 5 panels with with a patch.
Yes.
I hate 5-pound
Yeah,
hats
me too.
so
Me
much.
too,
I
dude.
hate them.
They were such a fad for a second there. It was just painful.
They're not good.
Nothing is good about them.
As he puts on a ridiculous
Yes.
golf-sized trucker hat.
One less bagger.
One less bagger.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about.
And then he, by the time this hat came in, I had bought a bagger.
Dude.
I'm not a chopper builder.
Yeah, no.
Could I be a chopper builder? What is building a chopper?
At what price? Yeah.
We're shifting gears. Here's
ahead.
what building a chopper is. I've got that Sportster out there, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna unbolt the transmission and the motor, which
Yeah.
is a unit. It's a unit construction on a Sportster.
It is.
So
It is.
we're gonna take that over to another frame.
It's be so heavy. Yeah.
It's fine. We could use. All right. So we take it out of the frame. We bring another frame over.
Yeah.
We put the springer on it.
Do we have had to weld it on a hardtail frame?
No, we just get another. I have another frame for it that I can use.
Is it a hardtail one back there?
It is a Softail frame.
And the Sportster motor will go into it?
Oh, that hardtail that you can weld onto a Sportster frame.
Yeah.
It fits 1970s Ironhead Sportsters.
Oh, that's the one I'm thinking about.
I mean,
yeah,
anything can go on anything.
Anything, yeah.
Right?
You know,
that's one of those anything can go on anything
But at what
situations.
price, dude? Cheapers, creepers.
Well, the thing is, like, if I want to build a chopper, I can build a chopper. It doesn't make me a chopper builder. Like, it doesn't make me Jesse James.
Yeah.
It doesn't make me Donnie Luce. You know, it doesn't make me those guys. I'm not going to be in. You know what the irony of it is like if I was in one of those documentaries, I would have to laugh at myself. Like,
yeah, they're so ridiculous.
It's so much like board making. I can't tell you.
Yes.
Motorcycles actually kept me in the game for the duration because I was losing my mind on all the stress of it.
Yeah.
I went back to karate, and I went and got on the motorcycles and just started doing hours a day on the motorcycle, and it really brought the blood pressure down.
Yes.
And became part of my life.
Yeah.
And then I learned that if I want to ride, I'm going to have to wrench because that's the kind of budgetaries I am.
Yeah.
And then I started working on bikes, and then I wound up working at I worked at Harley Hardware, I worked at Crucifix, I dabbled at 42, and then I wound up at the bike shop.
Yeah, much love in the bike shop.
Yeah, where Brad is, he's one of the greats in terms of being a good, godly man.
Yeah.
He's a good, godly man.
He runs a good business over there.
I think so.
You remember that time you were on your Sportster that was in the midst of all this, and I was following behind you in your van.
Oh, I remember.
And your Sportster broke down on 75 South. We were like trying to go to Florence or something.
We just picked that effer up and
threw it in there. Threw it in there sideways. You were so brokenhearted.
We took it back to the warehouse.
Yes, and it sat for a while.
And it had already broken down in Texas with me on it. That was the year.
Right.
That was the year that I broke down in Texarkana.
Right.
I took it back, and then I went into research mode, and then some months later, I replaced the clutch.
I recall.
I cut the entire wiring harness and rerouted the entire wiring harness above the frame.
Yeah, because why?
I ordered a tank lift set that didn't work. They sent me the wrong one.
Dude.
They admitted it. Then they sent me the right one.
Yeah.
And it was wrong.
It was still wrong.
And they admitted that it was defective.
Yes.
And I swear they were buying them from China.
Yeah.
And then I just made my own with tabs.
And it was fine.
I just did a drilled tab.
Yes.
And I'll never go back.
It was amazing.
I just did a drilled tab lift so that the wiring could be, because my problem I had in Texarkana was wiring related, and I wanted to be able to get at all my wiring. When I cut open the wiring loom, it was full of water, you know, and I just
full of water.
It just breaks me.
Dude, it's so funny to think about all that. All that's coming back like a long lost dream that was eons ago.
And I bobbed it.
Yeah.
Which is, I cut the frame rails off it and put it on slammer shocks and rerouted the rear wiring up out the way that it needed to go in order to not be rubbed by the wheel.
Right.
It for a rear fender, I used a piece of racing tire.
Which is badass.
It was great.
Yeah.
And then I welded my own sissy bar. Oh, and I chopped the cross member of
Yes.
I drag piped it, which I knew was not good.
Oh, dude, and you welded little tabs.
And I welded discs in. It was the first time I'd ever welded.
I remember
and it held.
that. I was there for that.
You
That was
were.
amazing, dude.
You kind of told me how to do it.
No, well, I can't remember. That was so funny. He literally took an exhaust that had a cross member on it, cut it off, and he just cut little tabs. And dude, you were using like the side of like a concrete thing to like try to round the tabs over so they would fit on the round pipe.
Just
and it worked, right?
Smashing it with the hammer.
Yeah.
It did work.
It did work.
It worked.
I was in the throes of replacing an exhaust bolt that had snapped off into the block of your GS 550. Oh my gosh, dude! Maybe we have done more than we think we have.
Dude, we've done.
Insane,
we've
dude.
done. Listen, man.
Yeah.
When you put them on a scale,
Yeah.
like most Harley riders, don't even change their oil.
Yeah.
And I don't look down on that. Maybe I'm even jealous.
Yeah.
But I just can't have it in the shop.
I know it's.
You
so
gotta
expensive.
ride. You gotta ride it. Oh,
Right.
and I don't have any money.
And don't demand that I respect you for being a chopper guy if you're not going to do chopper stuff. I love you, but
Right.
I'm just not going to respect that.
Right.
And that's kind of part of the deal. It's so similar. Skate and biking they're so similar. They're peas in a pod. And you know what's funny is surveying is very similar as well.
World of Men, Luke.
Dude, it's the world of men.
It's the world of men.
It's the world of men inside of industries where passion, it's like a passion thing that drives people, and they get so
catty,
batshit crazy
catty
about it. They're so catty.
People are
dude.
catty.
They literally will destroy people's lives.
Well,
Insane.
that's what happens in skate. It's happened to so many people.
Truly.
My life was not destroyed because my life lies beyond the veil.
Yes.
My life is hidden with Christ in God.
Yeah.
And so, what are you going to call me a bad name or
Right.
accuse me of a crime that I didn't commit?
Right.
That sounds like what they did to the guy who told me to take up my cross and follow him after denying myself. So that fits.
Yeah, this is within the metric.
This falls within the parameters
100%.
of a life well lived. So at least I shouldn't be surprised about those things.
Yeah.
The thing is that the financial constraints of adulthood are important to fulfill for a grown-up. And in order to fulfill those constraints in skateboarding, 120 customers a month is about 2,000 customers a year.
Yeah, that's a
because you have to fight and sacrifice to keep those customers.
Tooth and nail, man.
No, it's joyful when you treat customers well. You feel great, and you make money doing well by doing what's good.
Right.
And so,
I think this metric that we just broke down is really only good for people who maybe have a spouse who makes, another 60 grand a year or something. Because after taxes at 50 grand, you're probably looking at $35,000 or something.
Do you happen to know what the average income of an American is?
I don't know.
36 grand.
Surely not.
Yes.
Dude, we're so impoverished. That's crazy.
The average income of an American is under 40 grand.
I'm gonna look that up. I don't not believe you. I just
tell me. No,
that's blowing my mind.
I heard that stat yesterday.
Okay.
I don't remember that it was an uncredible source.
Sure.
But believe me, I'd be happy to find out I'm wrong. Oh, but
holy shit!
What is it?
$31,133 in 2019.
So I was listening to that was before COVID, right? So a guy who can pull in 40 grand a year off of, believe me, friends, if you're running your own business and you're keeping book, you're going to be able to keep a little more than you think you are.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be unethical or illegal about it, but you're going to be able to embed a lot of those costs in your tax refund concept.
Yes.
It's the only country I've ever lived in where they send you money back.
I know.
That you overpaid taxes. Try that in France.
Well, this is I'm seeing different things here.
Yeah, what's
this website says the median American worker brings home an estimated $54,000 a year.
No, not median. Mean.
Mean.
There's a difference between the
that's
mean
true.
and the median. Yeah. Average is the mean.
Yeah, that's 31,000 apparently.
The average.
That comes from the United States Census Bureau.
Yeah.
Wow, dude.
Well,
I'm mind blown by that.
Well, that's what I think we need to think about, is that if you succeeded in having sales of 120 boards a month,
yeah,
at a premium keystone margin,
yeah,
then that's a good living.
Yeah, for sure.
If you were to commit 5 years to building that, I think that could happen.
Yeah.
The problem is the guys with the skills to build the boards and make the boards,
right?
They don't possess all the same. They don't have every single one of those hats they can put on and do well at.
Right. That's why I think two guys really working together, having a robust media dealio, having other streams of income, really putting their heads together, and understanding that to be successful at this means to fundamentally change skateboarding culture to some degree, and be willing to go through the rigors of that. That's.
I almost think if I were to do it again, I would create a print zine.
Yeah.
And I would probably wind up starting a print zine.
Right.
That is an advertisement. And you know what? If they own all the airwaves, just start another channel.
Yeah, just do another channel, bro.
And the podcast.
Yeah.
If the podcast took off,
yeah,
or YouTube took off, and
right,
it was about people who make boards and ride motorcycles, that would not be the most boring thing that people could tune into.
No. Absolutely.
And also, how sick would it be if you ordered a board and then they did a whole podcast about this board you ordered?
I know.
Or they did a YouTube video about the shape that you dreamt up.
And they drove down to your house on motorcycles and dropped it off. Come on now. We're always looking for an excuse to ride bikes.
There it is.
Yeah.
So, that's... But the thing is, I think that the 240 per month is much more feasible for two people.
Mm-hmm.
And at $240 a month, you got two people making $4,200. It's not, though. You're going to have to do 300 boards a month for both of those people to be flush on a model that has no room for leakage. We can't pay someone $1,100 a month to do our search engine optimization.
Right.
That's what that's worth.
No, absolutely.
That's what that's worth.
You would have to save and get things together.
You would have to achieve virality.
Yes.
You would have to be a viral sensation.
Which is fickle and only lasts for a minute and then it's gone. That's why I think the only way for it to be successful is to do it in such a way that you're actually changing an entire culture's outlook on what's good and bad.
You would have to become an institution.
Literally.
You'd have to become celebrity and institution,
right,
and it would definitely have peripheral. One of the things you always do when you have a good board brand is if you've branded well, you should be offering a solid fashion line along with it. By 100%. That I mean just crappy t-shirts and trucker hats.
Yeah, like something super
But you should be putting out stuff that's bespoke and very the early version of what was it? Not Ed Hardy. Early Ed Hardy, when Ed Hardy was Ed Hardy.
That other company we were talking about, can't
Von
remember
Dutch.
Von Dutch.
Back when Von Dutch was for what do we got? 88 minutes
and 45 seconds.
Well, we want to take a minute to thank Life Skateboards for being the people who make really great skateboards.
Absolutely.
And who are working very hard on their marketing. Casper has curated a huge social media deal.
Yeah.
He's done a great job with social media. Sam is high C grades on customer interactions. High C's are high for me.
Yeah, no,
that's like a B plus in someone else's, that's rare in an expert wood fashioner.
Yes.
Here's what you all should do: is you should let Sam make boards for you. He loves that crap.
He loves that crap.
you for listening to the CapmLew podcast today. We're not sorry. This is on you.
This is on you, friends.
For what it's worth.
You did this. Laters.
And that is another episode of the CapmLew podcast.
Welcome to the afterglow.
Send money.
Yeah, send money.
I don't even know how much we've gotten since we started in. Did we start in October?
We started in November. I think. Yeah.
We started in November.
I downloaded Stripe. I wonder if I can look at it.
Oh, that would be sick to know.
It's probably going to do a two-step authenticator.
Really?
Everything. I know, dude. I know. Oh no, it just let me in there.
Sweet.
Let's see. Dude, Sam put money in here. Okay, hold on. I just gotta hold on. Net volume from sales is $288 at this current juncture.
That's the total.
They say sales, but
Is
yeah.
that the total of all that we?
The gross is $322, but then they take a percentage. So I think the net is $288.
We have almost $300 in our bank account.
We're going to be rich.
We've done this twice a week for how many weeks now?
Let's
November, December, January, February, and 3 weeks of March. So that's 16, 18 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, this is episode 50, actually.
Oh, we could divide it by episode.
Right, because we did doubles and things.
That's less than $10 an episode.
It's a value at any price. It's value at any price.
Oh, man.
Maybe someday it'll be different. Getting in as often as I can, but thank you.
Thanks, Miklos.
Yeah.
We appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah.
Good on you and all you're trying to do over there, too. We recognize that the board makers are really up against it.
Yeah.
Any board maker who has any professional aspiration right now, you're really up against it.
Yeah.
I've always positioned myself as an advocate for the board makers, an advocate for skateboarders.
Yeah.
In my recommendation that this is the best value for skateboarders. I'm not pleased with board makers who do less than everything they can. I'm disappointed with board makers who haven't developed or aren't gifted with the skills necessary to handle the wily critters who are the skateboarders.
Sure.
I care, probably way too much. And we didn't talk about Jeff Grosso. We're going to talk about him next time because we're going to return to our musings on the common delusions of the skateboarding culture. Thanks, friends, for being with us. Remember, this is on you. And it is for what it's worth.
Laters.